Good evening, Encounter. You guys sound awful amped up a minute ago when I just walked in, and that was very encouraging because it's been a very long day. My plane landed at about 7:03, and I got over here at about 7:20, and then we're walking out and ready to go. And like this character we just saw, who is just now learning that he has some significance, I was under the false impression that I had more significance than apparently I have. I didn't miss a flight. One flight was delayed. We missed a connecting flight, and I said, I've got to get to Lubbock tonight. And the lady at the counter said, I don't believe I've ever heard anybody say those words. That is no offense. It's your great town. She just said, nobody's ever said that. Wow, you must really love Lubbock. I said, tonight it's all about Lubbock. I've got to get to Lubbock. She says, well, you're not going to get there. I said, I've got to speak at 6. She says, your plane lands at 7. The guy behind me says, you know, that math don't add up. And I said, I either need a plane with hyperdrive or I need Superman to fly around the world backwards many times. And we finally got here. I want to show some pictures on the screen here in just a moment, and I want to talk about finding some significance. Guys, we have those. Can we put those up there? I want to show you, as I flew here today, I found that I had a different kind of significance than I thought I had. Because when I got onto the plane, do we have those up here? When I got onto the plane, I'll show you what I found. I saw, this is what was in the little compartment in front of me, right? How many of you have ever been on a plane and you've seen this? Now, when I got there, I sat down in the emergency exit because I wanted to be able to have leg room and I wanted to be able to get off the plane rather quickly. And when I sat on the emergency exit, there was a flight attendant that came by and said to me, she said, do you realize that you are sitting in the emergency exit? And I said, yes, I do. And she said, do you realize what this entails? And I said, yes, I do. She says, all of us in the line there, she said, you're sitting in the emergency exit. What that means is, in the event of an emergency, you all are going to have to help take care of all the other passengers. She told one guy, you're going to have to open that door. She told the other guy, you're going to have to guide passengers this way. She looked at me and she said, and you will need to encourage the other passengers. I thought I got to bum into that deal. I turned to all the other guys who weren't really paying much attention. I said, oh, can we do this, guys? Are we ready? They looked at me like I was a little overzealous for an accident. And I said, okay, you open the door, but don't try that now. That could be a problem. You get all the other passengers, and I'm to encourage them. So I'll say things like, hey, nice sweater, a nice hat. Really like your briefcase. And so I said, let's make sure we understand what we're supposed to do. I make sure when I'm on a plane, I always follow these instructions. When the flight attendant starts going through and she says, please pay attention, I'm like the only person on the plane paying attention. Everybody else is reading. Everybody else is failing to power down their on-off devices. And I'm sitting there watching with great intensity because I want to know what's being said. Now, I've flown hundreds of times. I know what's being said, but I watch for a very specific reason. And on a recent flight, the lady comes to me and she says, I want to thank you, sir, for paying attention. Nobody ever pays attention. Well, is this your first time flying? I said, no, I fly a lot. But the reason that I pay attention is because I know what you do. Because I'm a youth minister, so I know what it's like to spend all your life trying to share life-saving information with people and have nobody listen whatsoever. Yeah, thank you. And so I get on this thing, and several flights ago, I'm looking at this device here, and as I go, it tells us all these cool things, and I start taking pictures. I took these pictures with my cell phone. It first of all tells me that I can't use my computer. That looks kind of like my computer. Then it tells me I can't use that second thing, which I'm not sure anybody even knows what that is anymore. And I'm certain that nobody knows what that bottom thing is anymore. Yeah, so I turn to the guy beside us and I say, I hope you guys didn't bring a Walkman because we could be in trouble. And they're looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just getting ready to encourage the passengers because that's my job. That's why I'm here. I realized that I had been given a new identity. I became one of the 3 heroes of the airplane. I wanted to stand up and say, attention everyone, if there's a problem, the 3 of us will have it all taken care of. Just do what we say. First of all, put away all your 80s camcorders and Walkmans. Then I find out that I have to get rid of my pager, which I did 12 years ago. Then I've got to get rid of that cell phone, which nobody has a cell phone. Well, maybe you do. So if you do, no offense. Let's move on. So then I get to this picture, and I'm snapping more pictures, and the lady beside me on the flight, a couple flights back, is like, what are you doing? She's getting real nervous. I said, this is hilarious. Have you ever looked at this thing? It is hilarious. First of all of those things I realize are dangerous, but I don't exactly understand what's going on there. I'm waiting for that little ding where the pilot goes, you're now free to move about the cabin, and if you want to get out your 4x4 Bigfoot remote-controlled car and run up and down the aisles, go right ahead. And so I'm a little concerned about that. I got more concerned when I saw this picture. One, because nobody's got a big boombox on the airplane. Two, nobody's got a TV that looks like that. And if I'm sitting on the plane, the last thing I want to be reminded of is that there was once a movie called Gone with the Wind. What? So then, it gets better. Yeah. It gets better. And so now, everybody on the plane is being very quiet, and I'm cracking up. And the people are looking at me like, what are you doing? I said, I'm just trying to be encouraging, because that is my job. I'm trying to make friends. I'm a friend. I'm here to be a friend. And if anybody's got a Furby, throw it away. Not because it could endanger the aircraft. They're just terribly annoying. All right, now, then I see this picture, and I realize on one flight, this is important. This is what you're supposed to do. They tell you to put the air mask on you first, and then put it on the child second. Southwest recently said, please put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then on your child next. And if you have more than one child, pick the one you think has the most potential. Well, apparently on another flight, you're not supposed to do this. This is not a good idea. Don't do this. What is going on there? It's like, Mom, I can't breathe. What? The flames, watch out. The flames are in my face. All right, now you've got this picture here. There's a lot going on there. That is the smallest child I've ever seen in that raft. For those of us who are older, I actually think that is Tattoo from Fantasy Island. And he's like, what are you trying to do? I'm trying to deplane. Deplane. Okay. Then, you've got this guy. This picture here is very complex. And first of all, I'm looking at all this thinking, hey, people, you wasted a lot of ink right here because the person this is designed for can't figure this out. And I understand that it's a little sad to see a picture like this. I understand. The girls are all like, oh, that is terrible. The guys are like, it's a floating baby in the water. Now, hey, but that baby is okay. That baby's okay. That baby has just had a really good idea. Look. All right. Now, I think some things they do just to get your attention. Have you seen it yet? There is a ballerina at the end of that. Hey, why do they do that? Because it's the only person on planet Earth that can get in the position they tell you to get in. They're like, sir, if there's an emergency, you're going to need to put your head down between your knees. And I'm like, well, then I'm just going to die. Because if I do that, the back of my spine is going to pop out and hit somebody in the back of the head, and it's going to be a problem. Now, what is going on here? All right, hold on. Let's unpack this. Hey, bear with me. Let's unpack this. This is how much fun I had today, by the way. Let's unpack this. First of all, that first lady, nobody can do that. Second of all, if the plane's going down and there's flame and fire and smoke, the last thing I'm going to do is like, whoops, I forgot my briefcase. I don't care about my backgammon set or whatever that is she's got in that thing. But they're all in a hurry because apparently Willy Wonka's trying to get him out of the plane. It's like, we got to go. I've got Oompa Loompas in the raft out there, I've got to say. All right. Now, this picture just freaks me out because it's a drawn picture, but that is a photograph of real hair. That is absolutely unnecessary. It's way too freaky. All right, we move on. Now, some of my teens, we go on mission trips, and they say, all right, Skid, which is what they call me. They say, Skid, can you tell us what this picture means? And I say, yes, of course. This picture here means passengers with 80s hair will be cast into the ocean immediately. I would have no way to encourage this woman. If she came out, I was like, I'm sorry, I can't say anything nice about your hair. It's way too 80s. Get out. Then you've got this person here, which, of course, it means for your safety, maintain alertness with your kung fu stance while exiting the aircraft. This is very orderly. Please exit the aircraft in a synchronized fashion with the person nearest to you. All right, now apparently Willy Wonka lost his hat. This one here says, in the event of an aircraft evacuation, style points will be given according to style and artistic impression. And this guy, I think he's pretty good, but apparently he only scored a 5. All right. Here we are. Of course, we all know what this means. It means lighters filled with water generally don't work at all. Now, this one, some of you are way ahead of me on this. This one is very encouraging because I'm thinking if I forgot to eat the peanuts, look at this. Licorice is stored conveniently inside flotation device for snacking. They're like, help, I'm drowning and my baby's floating away in the life jacket. And the guy's like, hey, but I got Twizzlers over here. If anybody wants a Twizzler, we're okay. All right, now you got this one, which is occasionally you may choose to throw your hands in the air and wave them like you just don't care. Now, you got to look carefully. You can't really see this one on this particular picture here. But it says, if husky woman should choose to attack, produce scary shadow puppets in your defense. That guy's got a really good T-Rex going, but you can't see it because of the brightness of this screen. You have to trust me on that one. All right, this one here, faceless passengers will be bound to a cement block and expelled. It's like, stewardess, I'm concerned about this guy over here. Why, is he giving you a funny look? He's giving me no look at all. He has no face. Would you tie him to this cement block and throw him out, please? All right, and then this one here is, this one's complex. A friend of mine sent me this and said, okay, funny guy, what can you do here? I go, well, this is obvious. This is, do not allow the solar eclipse to distract you while treading water and eating Doritos. See, she's eating a Dorito. I don't think that's a solar eclipse. I just think that's her baby who's had a good idea floating behind her. That's how babies apparently alert where they are in the ocean. Bing, I'm over here. All right. And so there you have it. That's why I felt important when I was on the plane on the way here, because I suddenly became the hero. It was my job. It was my job to become a hero on the plane. I was given a new identity. I was no longer David Skidmore, event speaker. I thought that was what was going to make me important to the people. Well, we got to get this plane. We got to hold this plane to Lubbock because we got a speaker on the plane. They didn't care. It was obvious I was not important at all. I ran into one of our state senators in the Nashville airport. True story. And I said, Senator Alexander, is there anything you can do to get this plane to Texas on time? He was like, no, son, there's not. That didn't help. He just looked at me like I was a moron, much like the other two guys on the airplane when they found out I was joining them as the heroes of the plane. Here is where we're going to go. You ever realize that you're sitting in the emergency exit? The lady gives the speech and she comes over to us and she kneels down and she says, can I have your attention, please? And she's only talking to the three of us, which made us feel instantly important. It made me feel important. The other two guys weren't paying attention. They were working Sudoku puzzles. And so they looked up and she says, I'm going to need to let you know that you're in an emergency exit, which means you have important responsibilities in the event of an emergency. And if an emergency should happen, you should do these things. If you are willing to comply, I'm going to need your agreement with a verbal yes. And they say that because they want to know that you speak English and understand. And so I say, yes. The other guy's like, mm-hmm. I'm like, I didn't hear a yes. And she's like, I need to hear a verbal yes. And I think just to be stubborn, he went, I was like, come on now. See, I was encouraging already. And so he said, okay, yeah, I got it. I was like, I don't want to serve with these guys. They don't seem all that intent on saving people. I'm more excited about saving people than these guys are. And then she said, because if you're not willing, now listen to this, if you're not willing to fulfill these responsibilities, then I'm going to have to ask you to change seats. Hey, youth ministers, preachers, elders, parents, volunteers, if you're here, wouldn't you love to be able to say that at your churches? Wouldn't you love to be able to get up and say, hey, I'm about to share life-saving information with you. And everybody in this auditorium is sitting in an emergency exit. And if you're willing to comply with the instructions and to go out into the world and to save people, then I'm going to need to get a verbal yes. And if not, then I'm going to have to ask that you give up your seat. It sounds so harsh. I mean, have you ever heard somebody say, I don't want to do that. If the plane crashes, I'm going to go out first. I'm just going to sit here and die. I don't want to help anybody else. And they start unpacking their bags. Not once have I ever seen somebody do that. But I've seen lots of people in churches that were not serious about fulfilling the identity that they've been given. Do you realize that if we go back to the screens here with the pictures, I'm going to need to get somebody to help me. And I can't see very well out here, but I'm going to need to get a guy to help me with this. And there's a reason. And it needs to be a guy that is maybe like a 9th or 10th grade guy. And right here, you're close enough. Tell me your name. Brian, come on up here, Brian. Now, Brian, I'm a little concerned because you're the only person that is sitting over here on this side of either that was the timeout section or the detention area or the place in the cafeteria where you sit when you can't talk. Were you just sitting here? Did you violate the rules by crawling over that divider?
Pretty much.
Pretty much? Okay, all right. So we have a rule breaker up here on stage. That's comforting to know. All right, if you want to stand right here for just a second, Brian, I'm not going to need you to, you're not going to do a lot of talking, so we won't need a microphone for you. But, Brian, how old are you?
14.
Okay, he's 14. Wow, 14. I'm 14. Oh, your throat. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not making fun of you. Actually, I am, but I didn't mean to. Because it's my job to encourage you. Hey, Brian, somebody shared with me a long time ago some really important advice. And what they share with me are the two most important things about me. And today, I'm going to tell you the two most important things about you, okay? Here are the two most important things about you. Brian, some people would say that the most important thing about you is what you think about God. But Brian, I'm going to suggest that that is the second most important thing about your identity. All right? What you think about God. Now somebody says, whoa, wait a minute, what's this guy talking about? The most important thing about you is what you think about God. And I would say, no, it's not. Brian, the second most important thing about you is what you think about God. The fact that you're here indicates something about what you think about God. I don't know all about your spiritual journey. I don't know anything about your spiritual journey. We've never met. But it says something that you're here. It says something that you're at a youth event, that you're a part of a youth group. Are you a part of a church youth group or are you visiting with somebody? Okay, very good. So that says something about what you think about God. So the enemy, the great accuser, the great discourager. By the way, I'm talking about Satan or the devil, but I don't use words like that because Satan and devil sounds kind of cartoonish in our culture. And so I like to use words like the great accuser or the enemy or the discourager. And what he does is he says, okay, Brian is here. There's no way that I'm going to really be able to attack what he thinks about God. But he's going to try, Brian. He is going to make you doubt. He's going to cause things to happen that cause you to question the identity of God. But he realizes that he doesn't have a big shot at it because you're here. So here's what he's going to do. And I want everybody in the room to make sure you understand this. If I share nothing else, I want you to get this. And the fact that there are Twizzlers on some aircraft. You need to know that the most important thing about you, Brian, is what you think God thinks about when God thinks about you. Now, some of you have to read that twice. The second most important thing about Brian is what he thinks about God. The most important thing about you is what you think God thinks about when God thinks about you. And here's how this works. You say, I'm at Encounter. And Satan says, yes. But if everybody knew what you were doing last weekend when all these people weren't around, they would be so disappointed in you. You say, hey, look here, I'm a part of a youth group. And Satan says, yes. But if they only knew, Brian, yes, you're on the screen, Brian. It's exciting. And by the way, you're actually larger here than you are on the screen. All right, so then Satan comes to you and he says, Satan. Yeah, that was clever. We got a smart guy up here. That's where it's the detention aisle. I was right. All the troublemakers sit right there. We just give some of them cameras. Now, you are up here and Satan says to you, way to go, you're a part of a youth group. The problem is, Brian, if these people knew, if they knew the movies you watched or where you've been on the internet or what you said about your parents or what words you said to your friends, they would not want you in their youth group. But not just your youth group. He then begins to say, oh, Brian, you have to realize that you are such a disappointment to God. He doesn't say, hey, God's not real, because he knows that you think that he is. I may be jumping the gun there. Do you happen to believe that God is real? And you probably struggle with that belief, just like I do at 41 years of age. It's perfectly okay to battle through those doubts. By the way, it's the only way you strengthen and can emerge from a cocoon of adolescence is if you really struggle with those things. And if we try to provide all the answers for you, it's like ripping a cocoon open and a butterfly will never emerge and you'll die. So I don't want you to die, Brian. Now, so you're going to have some doubts. You're going to have some doubts. The issue is that Satan realizes I can't make you doubt the existence of God, but what I can do is I can make you doubt you. And that is Satan's biggest trick for maybe the people in this room. Now, people in your school, he'll make them doubt the existence of God. But you, he'll make you doubt you. The most important thing about you, Brian, is what you think God thinks about when God thinks about you. Brian, do you like movies?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to need you to stay up here on the stage, and I'm going to need you to take off this backpack. One, because we're going to need you without a backpack in just a minute, and two, it's kind of concerning me that you brought possible weaponry up here. All right. Very good. Brian, we're going to watch a movie, and you're going to get to watch on this screen right over here. But in just a second, I want you to watch a clip. I don't think I need to set this clip up. Almost everybody in this room will instantly recognize it. But it was in 1995 that I was about to begin a journey into youth ministry. I've been a youth minister now full-time for just over 15 years. And in 1995, I watched a movie, and I was beginning to think, I'm going to be a youth minister in like 2 or 3 months. This was in November. And I thought, here it is, Thanksgiving weekend. I'm here to watch a movie and relax. But I saw something that helped me understand that is it. That is how I will communicate identity to teenagers for the rest of my life. Because when they understand this, it will move them to action. And it will move them to realize, I'm not just Brian, Christian. I'm not just David Skidmore, speaker. Or I'm not just David Skidmore, airline passenger. I'm David Skidmore, potential life-saving hero on this airplane. All right? The thought of that made you snort up here at me. Yeah, okay. But you're mocking me, like everybody else on the airplane. All right, Brian, I'm just giving you a hard time. Brian, I want us to watch this clip. And I want you guys out there to watch, and I want you to see if you can tell me the moment when everything changes. It will be obvious to everyone in this room, the moment when someone who doesn't have an identity reminds someone else who thinks they no longer have an identity that they have a powerful identity. And I don't think we need to set it up any more than that. Let's watch this clip together. All right, that's all we need to see of that. That's one of the greatest movies one of the scenes of any movie ever, I think. Now, the moment that everything changes is that moment that is true of me and of you, Brian. It's that moment, pardon the pun, when you realize that you have your maker and author and sustainer's name written on your soul. All right. Now, at least he didn't snort at that. Now, that's the point, because, Brian, a lot of times teens, especially in this room, I know what it's like. I work with teens every day, and they begin to buy the lies that were talked about earlier before the session began, where Satan says, no, God may be real, and God may be big, and God may be of great value, but, Brian, you're not. And when God thinks about you, you know what he thinks about? Let me illustrate this further with you, Brian. I want to go to a verse in Colossians. You all, it's dark in here, so you won't be able to turn to it. I'm a firm believer in not just trusting that things are on a PowerPoint slide and believing that they're in the Bible. Find your Bible and mark this up. And find a way to mark it. I know where things are in the Bible because of where they are in my Bible. And I open them up and find them. There's a verse in Colossians. When I think about identity, Brian, and I want to try to get you, and you say Toy Story, that's cool and all, but I'm 14. All right? I'm a little older than that. I want you to look at this verse from Colossians. Colossians 3, it says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another, and forgive as the Lord forgave you. How many of you are familiar with this passage? You've read it before, you've seen it. All right? Most of us can look at these items right here and realize that our job is to clothe ourselves with these particular words, and that's a list that we have a hard time doing. Let me illustrate it this way, Brian. You stay right there. I don't want you to put this on, but I want you to hold it in front of you. Would you do that for me? Just hold that up in front of you. Brian reads this passage, and he says, I am to clothe myself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. But he says, I don't feel these things. I can't do them. I have to fake them. And Satan comes to you and he says, wait a minute, Brian, if you put that on, everybody's going to be able to see through that. They know that that's not you. They know that you're not this, or this. And so he says, you know what? Put that right over there. That's where that belongs. Because, Brian, you're not that. The most important thing about you is what you think God thinks when God thinks about you. So Satan says, hey, here, Brian, clothe yourselves with this, because this is what God thinks about when God thinks about you. Put it on. I want you to put that one on. I want you to slip that one on. He says, this, Brian, is your identity. I want you to walk around school wearing this. I want you to go to the youth group wearing this, because you, Brian, are a worthless, loser, guilty, reject, failure. Now, Brian's not going to walk around with that shirt on, but some of you are walking around emotionally with that every day because people have made you feel that way. A family member has made you feel this way. A friend at school, a teammate, an adult, or a child. Somebody has made you feel this way. Better yet, an accuser who says inside of you, that is your identity. You want to see what's written on your soul, Brian? It's this. And God says, whoa, whoa, wait, Brian. Wait. No. Brian, that's not you. That's not you. I tell our teens all the time, there's two ways you view God. Listen carefully. You either view a God who sits up in heaven and points down at you and says, that is not what you're supposed to do. Or you believe in a God who comes and dwells among us, as the Bible says he did in the flesh, and says, that's not who you are. If you believe in that God, you'll stop believing in him. The more you mess up, you'll stop believing in him. And when a teen says, I'm not sure I believe in God anymore, I say, tell me about the God you don't believe in. And they often describe this God. And then I try to introduce them to this God who says, that's not who you are. Brian says, I'm still not buying it. All right, so Brian, keep that shirt on. I know it's warm up here, but I want you to put this one on. I want to go back to that verse. Guys, can you put the verse back up on the screen for just a second? Yeah, put it on over that one. I want us to look at this list because we feel like we can't do that list. And so we see this. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, whoa, let's stop there. Because we miss that. We get so busy thinking that we've got to wear this, and you think, I can't wear this because I am not this, and I don't want to live a lie, and so I do this, and you wear the other shirt, which, by the way, makes you live all kinds of lies, and then God says, hey, Brian, you are chosen. And Satan says, oh, wait a minute, Brian. Turn, look at me, Brian. Turn and look at me. Now pull that shirt real tight. Oh, guess what I can do, Brian? I can see that now you're a chosen guilty reject failure. So can everybody else here. When they look at you, everybody on the front row, even in the back row, you can look and you can see, oh, look, Brian's a chosen failure. How nice. And Brian begins to realize, God, why would you pick me when I'm all of these things? And God says, whoa, Brian, I'm not done. I'm not done yet. Now, I know all of you already see where this is going, but it's important that we see it because I want you to watch what happens. Then God says to Brian, Brian, not only are you chosen, but you are holy. And the enemy comes in. The discourager says, oh, Brian, what? Holy means perfect. Holy means perfect like God, and you're not perfect. You can't be holy. And then somebody in Brian's life, hopefully, is smart enough to say, no, holy does not mean perfect. It means what? It means set apart. That's very different from perfect. It means you are chosen for a purpose, and you are set apart. But Satan says, oh, so you're chosen and holy. Pull that shirt real tight for me there, Brian. Guess what? The people that are up here, maybe not the people in the back of the room now, but the people that are up here that are closer to you now realize that you are a chosen holy reject failure. Hey, but here's the good news, Brian. God's not done with you yet. I want you to put that on. Because God comes and he says, not only are you chosen, but you are holy and you are dearly loved. Hey, Jesus had to hear this very same thing. Remember his baptism? The Spirit comes down and said, this is my Son, whom I love, and in him I am well pleased. Does it encourage you? It does me that there was a moment in the life of Christ when he had to look on his soul and realize that his Father and owner had written his name on his soul and realized, I am loved. Because if not, guess what happens, Brian? You begin to say, Sid's house, Andy's house, what's the difference? But we're not talking about Sid's house and Andy's house. And then Woody says a great line, whoa, Buzz, you have taken a big fall. And so have we. Ever since our big fall, Satan says, God is fed up with you guys. And God says, no, you're chosen, holy, and dearly loved. Brian, would you pull those shirts really tight? Now, there's always a smart aleck who says, ha, it didn't work. I'm on the front row, and I can still see through, and barely can we see these words. Most of you can't. Somebody up close always says, I still see them. There goes your point. And I say, oh, no, not exactly. Because guess what happens? As you realize you were chosen, holy, and dearly loved, all of those things that you once were begin to fade away. Except there's one more shirt. Put that one on. Because these things that were now fake before, when a person realizes they are chosen, holy, and dearly loved, those things become real. And when they become real, then they just begin to spill out of a person. Brian can't stop himself from being compassionate, kind. And then he says, he looks at Satan, he says, Satan, and he pulls it real tight. And Satan grabs it and tries to bring tension into his life. And he says, look at yourself in the mirror. What do you see? What do you see? And he says, I don't see those words anymore. I no longer see that I'm a reject, that I'm guilty, that I'm a failure. What I see is that I am chosen, holy, and dearly loved. And what I see is that now I just overflow with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. That's what I see. And then he realizes, and there's a friend over there who needs us. It's the moment when Buzz gets up and he says, we got to get this thing off of you. We got to go over there. We got to get back to Andy's house because our owner's house is where we belong. We don't belong here anymore. Now, there's another passage of Scripture that I want us to look at. If we can go to that one. I want us to look for a second in another letter that Paul writes to the Ephesians. Can we go there, guys? In Ephesians, I want to look at, let me back up here. I want us to look at this one. As for you, you were. Remember that word. What's that word I just said, Brian? You were. What is it? Were. You were. All right. What does were mean? Yeah, good, good. Very good. Past tense. These questions aren't hard. You were dead in your transgressions and sins in which you used to live when you followed the ways of this world and of the ruler of the kingdom of the air. That's the enemy, by the way. The Spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. That's the great discourager, by the way. All of us who lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of our flesh and following its desires, like the rest of us, we were by nature objects of wrath. But because of His great love for us, just like is evident on these shirts, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ even when we were dead in transgressions. The message says, even when we had a rocket strapped to our back. It doesn't really say that. I just made that up. It is by grace you've been saved, and God raised us up with Christ and seated us with Him in the heavenly realms in Christ Jesus, in order that in the coming ages He might show the incomparable riches of His grace expressed in His kindness to us in Christ Jesus. But now, in Christ, you who once, what's the word? Were far away, have been brought near by the blood of Christ. Brian, I want you to do this. I want you to get one other person to come up here. We're going to wrap this up. But I need a teen in your group. I want an older guy that you look up to. Somebody that is kind of a mentor. Somebody that is maybe a leader. Can you think of somebody? Is that person here? Can you ask them to come up here for a second? All right, Nathan. All right, come here, Nathan. All right, Nathan, I'm David. Nice to meet you, Nathan. All right. All right, good. Nathan, I want you to stand right there for a second. Nathan Hale?
Hill.
Oh, Hill. I thought you said Nathan Hale. I was like, I have not yet begun to fight. Wait, did he say that? Or was that John Paul Jones? I don't know. You never do history in front of hundreds of people, all right? All right, now, I want to illustrate this one final way, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to come stand over here. I know it's very, very hot. For one, we're in Lubbock, and two, you're wearing 12 shirts, okay? Would you go stand over here for a second? Nathan, I want you to stand right there. Paul, not only in Ephesians, but also in Colossians, he says, at one time you were, but now you are. I want you to think about that phrase for a second, teens. At one time you were, but now you are. I don't know a lot about Nathan, but I'm guessing the reason that Brian picked Nathan is because, first of all, Nathan, did he pick you because your entire life has been lived in perfection and that's why he holds you up as a model? Oh, no, not of course, right? I'm not making fun of Nathan. I'm saying he's walked the same path I've walked. I'm guessing that at some point, because of your once were-ness and your understanding of your but now-ness, you have decided that you want to share that message with other people. And Brian is one of those people that is understanding it and he's getting it. And he says, I want to be like this guy who once was this, but now he is that. See, Brian's walking around with 12 shirts on too, and guess what? At the bottom, they all say that he was a reject, guilty, condemned failure. Why? Is it because I know Brian? No. It's because all men have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But God comes and He says, I want to clothe you with my Son. He is chosen, holy, and dearly loved, and then these things flow out of Him. But here's how I want us to illustrate this. Go back up to the screen for a second. There we are. Those words far and near are really tough to understand, right? I mean, we don't understand far and near. You think, oh, come on. Ever since the days of this and this, right? You all may not have grown up with this, but if you grew up and you know exactly what that is, raise your hand, right? Grover comes on the screen and he says, far, and he goes, near. This is far, this is near. And then the kid on the screen doesn't get it. He goes, okay, you got it? Okay, I'll do it again. And he runs back far, near. And he gets so tired running back and forth. And you're like, man, where are these stupid kids that don't understand the difference between far and near? You're going to kill Grover. And do you think there's a God in heaven who says, when are you people going to understand the difference between far and near? And so this is the way I want to illustrate this as we wrap up here. Brian, I'm going to let you hold on to this. This is an illustration that I came up with years ago by mistake. And I've shared it in lots of places. I don't know if any of you have been a place where I might have shared it, but most of you probably have one of these. It's impossible to hold a slinky without going like this, by the way. If you give a slinky to somebody, within about 30 seconds, they're going to be doing this. Right, okay. Now, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to let you hold on to this end of this, all right? Brian, you're going to represent God. Nathan, you're going to represent God, all right? What I want you to do is I want you to hold on to it with grip your fingers like that. I want you to hold on to it very tightly, okay? Now I want you to put it like this for a second, and I want to see this right here. This slinky now represents your faith, my faith, Brian's faith, Nathan's faith. This represents our journey with God. If you got it, say got it. And so I now have given God control of that, and I am going to go and do this, and I say, yes, we are connected with God. Brian, you get it? I'm connected to God. I mean, I'm really connected. As a matter of fact, if I move, I know that God feels it, okay? And then even if I'm not looking, if God moves, then I feel it, and I realize we're still connected. Plus, I can see it on the screen behind you, so, okay. All right, yeah. So now I decide that I'm going to come and check this out over here and do these things over here, and I realize, yes, but I'm still connected to God. Nobody worry. I'm not going to cause any problems, because look at this. When I get right here, check this out. See, my faith is still intact. I'm still connected. Don't anybody be afraid. And then I decide that, oh, this is really cool. I like being over here because it cramps my style if I get a little too close to God. I mean, if at school, I'm gonna do this. I'm still connected, God. On my football team, I'm still connected. It's obvious I play lots of football, right? I'm going to stay over here. But I played tailback. I did. Every time I got off the bench, the coach said, Skidmore, get your tailback over here right now. All right. I'm gonna stand right here, and because at church, now, at Encounter, I'm gonna be right here. In Christ alone. I'm gonna be right with you. All right, my God and I bet they don't sing that at Encounter, but we're gonna sing all the songs, and I'll do all the deal. But when I leave here at Encounter, we got to do this, God, because over there it cramps my style a little bit. And then I realize standing over here is kind of fun. I get into all kinds of trouble, all kinds of cool things. And so then I go and I say, I'm gonna try this. And I'm beginning to feel a little tension, but good news. I come back on Sunday and look. Oh, look, there we go. There we go. No problems. Mom, Dad, don't worry. Youth minister, don't worry. Until the day when I decide that I want to go and see what's happening down the stairs. And there are no stairs, so I'm glad I didn't decide to try that, because that could have been a problem. I decide that I'm going to, can I step on that? All right, can I step on this? All right. Okay, all right. And then I decide I'm going to see what's going on over here now. This is exciting. And then I decide, but I can still see God. But don't worry, we're still connected. See, watch, God move. See, we're still connected. And then I decide that, and by the way, Nathan, don't let go of that, or there's people out here that will lose their faith in God. Trust me. All right. I decide that I can still see God from over there, so I'm going to go check this out over here. Oh, now, I'm over here. Oh. I'm over here, and then God, I want you to move. God, move.
Oh, move somewhere.
No. I just want you to move. Just shake the... Hey, guess what? I'm not even sure that he's moving. I can't see him on the screen, and I can't feel it any longer. I can sense that there are some vibrations in this slinky, but now I'm not so sure. And then I realize at some point, you know what? I want to go and see what's happening over here. Oh, wow, there's a screen. This is nice. And Brian is really in a dangerous place. And then I got a friend like Brian who says, hey, you need to come back. This is not where you belong. And I begin to feel like a worthless, reject, guilty, condemned failure because I already know what's going to happen. Because I start making my way back, and I get right here. Now listen, we can have fun with slinkies all day long, but teens, I want you to like them for just a second. I'm about to wrap this up. But I want you to listen. This right here is what some of you feel like. You say, nobody can really tell if there's a problem yet as long as I do this. Because I could still fool people that I'm connected to God. But the minute that I do this, then everybody knows. And the minute that I try this, and I say, here, God, let me give you a second. Yeah, thank you. God, could you just turn around for a second? Because you're just going to have to give me just a moment, and I can make this right, I promise. Now let's imagine that I had the entire week of Encounter to stand here and to try to get this. Brian, would you pick up that other one right there, the big one, please? Let's imagine that I had all week to try to get this. And then I go to my friend Brian, and I say, Brian, let me see it. I say, what? See, he did it. He's tried to, yeah. Hold it. I say, what does it look like? Okay, that's what it looks like. Okay. Oh, wow, Brian, you're not going to want to. And let's just imagine that I get all this up here. I've now cut off circulation in 2 of my fingers. And I say, okay, all right. Okay, good. Okay, there we go. Oh, look, that part looks great. Oh, that's the part God was holding. Okay. Oh, this part looks good. Okay, there we go. I'll just focus on this. How many people in this room are walking around like this, just praying that nobody asks you to turn around and can see what you are really made of? So you think, because Satan says it doesn't matter what you think about God. It matters what God thinks about when God thinks about you. And right now, when God thinks about me, he thinks about this. And I want so badly to feel this again. But I know that it's impossible. And so I ask this question. What was my mistake? Somebody, what was my mistake? All right, almost everybody shouts that out, and that's a great answer. That is one of my mistakes. It's not my number one mistake. She said going too far. Most people will say the mistake is I went too far. And as a youth minister, and as youth ministers out here, you know, you've been asked by teens a long time. I'm not just talking about spiritual or physical purity, sexual purity, but in lots of ways, how far is too far? How far can I go? And somebody says, how far can I go? And I still go back, and this slinky still be intact. The problem, young people, is that is a lie from Satan. Satan says if you go just far enough, you can go back and it still looks the same. The problem is you don't know that you've gone too far until you've gone too far. And then the minute you take one step back, you realize this slinky is never going to look the same again. And this is what you have. My mistake is not that I went too far. My mistake is that somewhere early on in the journey, I said, God, you hold on to this part, I will hold on to this part. My mistake was that I did not put the slinky into one set of hands and leave it there, because I said, this story is not about you. God, this story is about me. I'm the speaker on the airplane. And then God says, no, you're not. At best, you are an emergency exit pew sitter, and you're going to try to help save other people. But this story is not about you. And I say, God, I don't want that anymore. When somebody says, I'm not sure I believe in God anymore, I say, is it because you look like this? I've got a slinky in my office, by the way, that looks just like this, except it's in one of these versions, which, by the way, is what happens when slinkies come together in marriage and make baby slinkies right here. They look like these, and they're very adorable. And I take one of these slinkies, and I do this, and it sits on my desk, and a kid comes in, and he says, Skid, my life is a mess, and I hate life. I hate my parents. I hate God. I don't believe in God anymore. And I say, is it because of this? And they say, what? And I go, let me tell you this story. And I have them act out the story of the slinky. And I show this, and I say, this is you, right? And they go, yeah. I go, whose fault is this? Well, God, no. Whose fault is this? Well, I just feel like a failure. Yes. And the accuser will make you feel like a failure. I passed out slinkies to my entire youth group. And I said, I want you guys to have one of these to remember this by. I said, just take one, though, because our budget is small, and we only have enough for one slinky. One of the guys in our group that is kind of a troublemaker named Wayne, he took 2 slinkies. One of the kids said, Wayne took 2 slinkies. I said, Wayne, I've had it. Wayne, why did you take 2 slinkies? I was really mad. Wayne said, because I wanted to put one of these beside my bed like this, and I wanted to put another one beside my bed like this, so that every night when I went to bed, I could ask myself, was this who I was today, or was this who I was today? And I looked at Wayne and I said, well, next time just take one slinky. No, I didn't. I said, Wayne, you finally got it. And he said, yeah. So, Brian, if you'll come here. Nathan, if you'll come here. Just stay on either side of me for a second. By the way, you get to keep that slinky, so that's kind of cool. You don't get to keep these shirts. The shirts I got to take with me. Let's go back to the slide for one last time. Hey, far and near. Those are hard words to understand. And so how is it I've tried to illustrate it for you with a slinky. God actually came up with a better illustration. This is what he did to show us how much he wants to be your friend. This is the moment where you're trapped under a milk crate with a rocket strapped on your back, and you say to a friend, hey, you're not a Buzz Lightyear. You are owned by the Creator, and that is your identity. But now in Christ Jesus, you who once were far away have been brought near by the blood of Christ. Hey, Brian, I want you to know, I think Nathan already understands this, but to the person out there who's feeling like this, and it might not be such a bad idea to find a place at Encounter to leave this. And Brian, for right now, would you just go and set the other one right there? I don't know why my plane was delayed. I joked with somebody, it's either spiritual warfare, that there's something that's going to be said tonight that some young person, somebody doesn't want them to hear. Or it could be that maybe I'm not supposed to speak and God thinks if you get up there, you'll mess everything up. I'd like to think that it was the first part, not because it's me, because the words that I've shared, in case you've noticed, they came from a book written by somebody else. But it's somebody who says to the person who feels like this and feels like, I can never go back. The good news is you'll never be able to fit that slinky, but you go back to God and God says, hey, guess what? This is who you are. And I want you to put that right there. And I want you to understand, Brian. And I want you to understand that you are chosen, holy, and dearly loved. The most important thing about you is what you think that God thinks about when God thinks about you. And if you understand that, that means you're sitting in an emergency exit. And if you're in an emergency exit when friends of yours are in trouble, you're going to be expected to help them by pointing out to them their true identity, that someone laid down their life for them. That's the hero you point them to. If you understand that, then I'm going to need to get a verbal yes. Great. That gives me hope for the future. And I pray that you enjoy your flight. And as we sing this song, there likely is somebody, even at the early part of this week, who says, wow, that is me. And I'm tired of that. And I want so badly to be that again. Because I want compassion, kindness, and gentleness to flow out of me. Don't respond to me. I won't be up here. There's going to be counselors and people up here. And you may just want to say, I want you to pray that I can get rid of this and that God will give me this again. And it may look tiny at first. And then you continue to grow. I'm going to get on a plane tomorrow and I'm going to leave. And I may never see any of you again. Except when we stand in line together. And I go, I think I've seen you somewhere before. What is your name? And you say, I am chosen, I am holy, and I am dearly loved. If you want that to be you and you want somebody to pray, or you want to put these clothes on for the very first time in baptism, even on the Monday night of Encounter, I know there's people that will do that for you. I saw the dunk tank back there to prove it. Why don't you come while we stand and while we sing? God bless you guys. Enjoy your flight.